Namo Namo Durge Sukhakarani, Namo Namo, Namo Namo Ambe Dukhaharani, Namo Namo, Namo Namo Durge Sukhakarani, Namo Namo. So thank you so much for joining us, Swami. This is a real treat. Now, a lot of people do know you from your years at the ashram because you're a Babaji Surya Namaskar instructor, you're a major music force, you ran the summer camps for youths, and for me, your most astounding talent is cooking over open fires, bread, pizzas. But I'm going to let you get started with, and also your amazing book, Forged in Fire, right? Or A Life Forged in Fire. So without giving away all the secrets of the book, I'd like you to just sort of let people know how you even wound up on this path and what led you to Guruji, because I know that's what people find so interesting as they try and see how their life might be going on a similar trajectory. So I'll let you start off where you're comfortable starting.
All right, thank you. Jai Gurudev, everybody. So nice to be with all of you. And thank you, Swamini Pratibha Ma, for this opportunity. So it was not easy to find time for this because I've been quite busy last few months. And also I'm trying to arrange also this similar Zoom meeting with the Russian devotees. And so let's try, see how it works. The schedule is quite tight last few months. So, but I'm very happy to be with all of you and to share my experiences with Guruji and my journey. And and that's actually the title of the book, My Journey, A Life Forged by Fire. And the title was given by Guruji. And but I came up with the subtitle. And this is actually because the spiritual path is not as easy or as beautiful as people may think when they come in the beginning of the spiritual path. Usually people fantasize about spirituality, fantasize about how life should be, how their life should involve, how guru should be, and so many things. And being on the spiritual path with the Sadguru, he's destroying all these fantasies. So it was the same with me. I was my spiritual path officially began. That's how, when I count it officially, is when I read Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. And reading such book, which inspired millions of people in the last 70 years or so, that since the book was written, published. And reading these wonderful stories, they transport you somehow to these saints, to these gurus, to this ideal, let's say, spirituality. But spirituality is far from ideal. That our mind constructs, what mind constructs as being ideal, and it's a full of thorns, and here and there is a couple of roses, but usually it's paved with so many thorns. And of course, I was so much into this book that really I started to fantasize. I'm a great yogi, so I was sitting, trying to control the mind, trying to transcend, levitate, or whatever Yogananda wrote in that book. So, of course, soon you realize that you are just a mortal being like everybody else, that you are not better than anybody else, especially those that you kind of look down upon, or maybe the church members, or like random people or your friends. When you start on the spiritual path, you get this surge of energy. You think you are much higher than you are actually. So ego gets hooked up on this. And that's the value for Sadguru, because being with the Sadguru, he's the one who to crush your pride, crush this false identity, and your idea that you are something that you are not. He basically help you to grind yourself. And this is what is also important for Guruji, being grounded. And so that's how my spiritual path actually started, with this book. And we created a small sangha, 10 of us, who we consider us to be the disciples of Yogananda. And we were very much into working on ourselves, studying the teachings, meditating, doing kirtan, and everything, following basically in the footsteps of Yogananda and the line of masters, beginning with Babaji and Lahiri Yukteswarji. Actually, today is Lahiri Mahashaya's Mahasamadhi, so I'm sure his grace, his blessings are also upon all of us today. So, Jai Lahiri Mahashaya. And so I was very inspired by all these lines of masters, Babaji, Lahiri, Yukteswarji, and Yogananda. And so for me, that was everything. So I didn't read any other spiritual books. I was even averse in reading other books, especially New Age books. I was not really into this New Age stuff. And but there was a moment. I was feeling blissful most of the time. I remember riding my bicycle, reaching my temple. It was 15 minutes drive, a ride on the bicycle. I was full of bliss. I was singing kirtans. I was, doing my services there. Basically, I did what I'm doing now. I visited other other centers. We called them centers at the time, helping people, doing like music workshops. So this was my time before meeting Guruji. So 2005, I was actually 2003. I was already applying for visa for tourist visa to visit self-realization fellowship centers in California, and because I expressed my desire to be a monk, and I really very thoughtfully went through my mind, through my search myself completely, and I realized I have no other desire in my life but to serve others, to be a monk. And my idea of monk is really to be secluded, to be apart from the world, and cut off my relationships, which I already did. Outwardly and inwardly, I was like, the world was finished for me. I even hated the world. I still hate the world. And I will come back to this story, how, despite the fact that I hate the world, I'm on duty back to the world. And so this is how I really, this for me, that was for me everything. I didn't have plan B. To be a monk of self-realization fellowship, to be at the center of, for me, that was the center of the universe where the Yogananda lived, where Yogananda wrote his books, that he served for 30 years. And for me, there was no question of doing anything else. And my visa was refused the first time, but it didn't discourage me. So with the monks, with the late president Dayamata, she was the one of the longest disciple of Yogananda, and Brother Nandamoy. So I worked with they gave their approval finally. So I went through all the process despite not being there in person. So they gave me the final approval. They gave me the blessing, and so again I applied this time for religious visa. So I fulfilled all the criteria. So there was no way of refusing me. And I went to the embassy. Everything was settled, and I was waiting. Normally, you wait for this kind of thing maximum 2 weeks, but I was already like waiting almost 2 months. 2 months I was waiting for this visa, because they sent my documents to Washington DC, and it took so long. I was like wondering, something is wrong there. Usually they would refuse it. That's how they're at the embassy. They're really merciless sometimes. And how they make you feel when you're in front of the counter. You're usually much lower, and there's a double glass, and the microphone, you don't hear it properly, and all this kind of, they put you so much stress. And anyway, I was waiting so long, and then there was this young guru. I got a flyer which was like photocopy of the photocopy. It was really like you could hardly read, and that this young guru is coming to Croatia to give darshan in my hometown in Split. I was not really interested because I already knew where I want to go. For me, that was settled. It was just a matter of time to get visa. I will be gone. I will not turn my back on on anything. I have no loves left behind, no connections, no, and nothing was there left for me. So I was complete. Everything was my mind. Everything was completely focused on this goal to be a monk. I think I was maybe I'm the only one who in whole Bhakti Magga history who came to Guruji already with that mindset. Usually people come without even understanding what brahmacharya is all about. They want to become brahmacharis, but I was already, my mind was already firm. There was no turning back. So finally Guruji came because I was so bored. It was summertime, it was hot, didn't know what to do. I was in the Yogananda's, this small center, and I thought to myself, I have nothing better to do. I was just waiting for weeks, and I'm even a little bit frustrated with my life, so let me just go and check it out. And of course I expected some, even though I saw the picture, what I could see his young guru, but I was expecting, like, how you envision guru, like old man walking, like very, every step is kind of carefully managed, and there's like air of like holiness, not holiness, but like a wise man, like white beard, whatever you think in your mind. And then he came in all of a sudden with swift steps, and went right to his asana. I was like, I was taking a back. And of course, first he was singing. I think the first bhajan he sang was Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Narayan 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 Jai Jai Narayan Narayan. So I was already into bhajan, so I could really also connect. And the way how he was singing and tapping his fingers, and the energy, all, of course, I was a bit, I was taken aback. I was, yes, I felt something, but because my mind was already set on some other goal, I didn't want anything else to take me away from my direction, from my goal. So, and he gave a short speech, very short. He gave two short, let's say, uh, message, and but for me it was like a kindergarten message. Like, I was already so much versed in Yogananda's teachings. I knew everything, what this verse coming from which chapter, which book, which I was like so much into it. So nothing can match Yogananda's wisdom and depth and all this. So for me it was like, as I said, kindergarten level. But it took me years to come back to this message that he gave. And one of them was like, love yourself, accept yourself as you are. This was like the first thing for me. It was like, what a stupid message. Like, imagine this level of arrogance, when you think you know something. Of course, it took me years to understand that I was arrogant. You don't know this. And he had to point it out to you, not directly, but indirectly, and and lead you through the process that you understand after years that you were actually arrogant, that you were not that wise, etc. So, and then it was very short. I think with translation it took maybe 10 minutes, I think, max. The next day there was a 2 darshan in a row, and then the next darshan he didn't even speak at all. And actually that was a good thing, because if he spoke more, I would completely dismiss him, because I didn't need knowledge or wisdom or anything like that. I didn't even need a guru. That's how I was inside. I just came there because I was bored, nothing else. But I was confused because there was a picture of Yogananda. There was a picture. No, there was no picture of Yogananda. There was a picture of Babaji, Lahiri Yukteswar, Mother Mary, Christ, Krishna, and Saint Francis, or Assisi, I think. Or yeah, something like that. And I was wondering, where's my Yogananda? Like, I was so much attached. I realized how much I was attached to this image of Yogananda and the teachings of Yogananda and everything about Yogananda, all the stories about Yogananda. I was so much, I don't know if there is anybody else in the world to be so much into Yogananda like I was at the time. And then I asked Guruji this, because there was some rumors that he might be the incarnation of Yogananda, which I really doubted and I didn't want to accept it. And then of course I was even so arrogant to even ask him directly, and he just smiled and he didn't want to answer, which is of course, what a stupid question. And because many times he said, what's the point, who was I and who you were? What is important is right now. I'm now Swami Vishwananda. You are who you are. You have to deal with your mind, with your whatever you have to deal your dharma. What's the point? What was in the past? And it took me a long time to dismiss this thought and to disconnect this idea of possibility that he might be this, because I was so much attached. I wanted him to be this my dream Yogananda. So it took me a long time to cut this cord and be free from it, and to focus solely on Guruji and his teachings, whatever he's teaching, even if it was kindergarten level. And we have to sometimes go back to kindergarten level, because otherwise, and this is the problem of spirituality, because we sometimes climb so high, but our foundation, the foundation is not firm. And this is what Guruji is doing, because Guruji is talking always about the mind. Guruji is talking about controlling the mind, transforming the mind, and giving us the tools how to do it. And many people like to skip it because it's not pleasant. And especially in Guruji's presence, he's forcing you to change. He's basically challenging you. And that's why most people can't handle this. And many people leave, they come one day, they leave, they never come back. They enjoy, they love the darshan, they love whatever, but they just can't handle it. It's too much for them. And there are people who follow Guruji for some time. At some point when Guruji is, say, okay, it's time to move on, people don't want to change. This is like, I've seen many people in Bhakti Marga, even with residents, people resist so much to change. And this comes from really not understanding why we are here for. And sometimes we are so much attached to how we think our spiritual life should be. Like, I was so much attached to the idea that my path of service to others is in the monastery, very closed, completely isolated from the world, and humbly serving from from behind the scene, not being in the public eye. Not because I was afraid, like, yes, most people are afraid of public speaking. And every time when you, even after speaking so long, I'm in the public eye, every time when I had to speak, there's still kind of an insecurity, and you don't feel you are good enough, that people will really care about your message, and there are many people better than you, like all these kind of thoughts that mind create. So that's normal. It's a part of the mind, let's say, structure. And also it's a part of, that's the problem with ego, because ego always wants the best. Ego doesn't want to be challenged. And being in the public eye, but when you have a few dozens of people or hundreds of people listening to you, and some of them are maybe wiser than you, some of them more intelligent than you, some of them, whatever. And it's not pleasant, because ego always wants to be the best, wants to cut the heads of other people to pretend to be better, higher, beautiful, and all this. It's a common problem, and this sometimes gets very subtle and hides deeper inside. It's very difficult to uproot it. That's where Guruji comes in. That's why being with Guruji, taking this opportunity is priceless. There is no comparison. And now I'm thinking how stupid I was. Even being with Guruji for a few years, I was still, part of me, part of my mind, or part of my being was dreaming of still being in California, in Encinitas, in in Yogananda's ashrams. How these attachments sometimes, when they're created, can pose a big obstruction, and and how much is important for all of us, whether we live outside or in the ashram, to observe the mind, to control it, to let Guruji change it, because we don't have the power. You try as much as you can, you don't have the power to do anything, and especially change the mind. You see Arjuna, how he said to Krishna, it's more difficult than to control the wind, and Krishna agreed. Yes, I agree, you're right. And this is the reality for all of us. But we have Guruji, who he's giving us the way, giving us tools how to do this, and with his grace it's possible. And even like I would just tell you a short experience. I think it's very good, can connect with this story of these attachments to certain idea. For a long time I wanted to visit Carthusian monastery. There's one in Slovenia, and there are some in Europe. There are not so many Carthusian monasteries because they're very strict Catholic orders, and the monks live completely secluded, and usually they live. There's a big like this one in Slovenia is really huge, and there are currently living 15 monks. They live in their own quarters, and usually they don't come out of the room, which for me it's like one box is already ticked. This is for me. And somebody brings you food every day. Then there's like a little like a window that and so somebody brings and closes the little door window. They have their own little garden, so they can do some manual work. Like the cell is so, I felt so connected. Maybe I'm sure in past lives I lived like this, many lives. And mostly they live in silence. Once a week they come together in a liturgy, and they are more free to do their prayer, to connect with God in the intimate way. Like one of the major, like say, focus is Mother Mary. Before they go to their room, they have like a pre-room. They have picture of Mother Mary. They always pray before, and they go into their rooms. They have also little prayer next to bed. They have like a prayer, like a, let's say, little chapel. It's not chapel, but let's say something like this, little corner where they pray. And the first prayer actually they have 11:30 in the evening, and so they are free to come together, or they can stay in their room to pray. And then after the official prayer is finished, they have this bell ringing, so they know where to come. And then they continue for a couple more hours on their own, and then they can sleep a few hours. Then in the morning they have 7 o'clock prayer. Then they have like few times during the day, and then the last prayer is I think 5:30. Afterwards light dinner. By 7:30 max they go to bed. So, and for me it was like, this is for me wonderful. Once a week they have like a group lunch, and then walking in the afternoon. They can get to know each other, and most of the time they work on themselves. And it's interesting, and they let us, a few of us, and usually nobody's allowed to go in, but somehow there are some connections, I guess, divine connections. The prior of the monastery let us in. They explain everything. So we went through the corridor where the monks live. He showed us one of the rooms, and library and everything, like the church. And I was so much taken in all this way of life that for like 10 days this energy stayed with me. I was like, this is what my soul wants. But I had to cut it off, because I knew my life is, in this life, is not it will not go in that direction. I have to forget about this. I have different dharma, this is for sure. But I couldn't resist. Part of me, the idea, my mind was kind of drifting all the time to this way of life. And but there was something interesting that I spoke with about the kind of praise they have, because I know in certain these very traditional monasteries they have mantras connected with breath, and like Jesus inhale, Christ exhale, something like this. And he said, yes, we also have something like this: Mother Mary inhale, Christ exhale, something like this. I said, you see how everything is connected. And he says it's not a main thing, repeating the name of God, but people are free really to, because they have library, they can take inspiration from different Christian, let's say, works, different saints, and which is wonderful. They have this kind of freedom. Usually in other kind of monasteries, Saint Clare or Saint Teresa monasteries, they have specific books. They follow the specific procedures, methodology. And but Saint Bruno, who made this order, he didn't really leave these specifications. He left them more free to worship God in their own way, which is for me really wonderful. And it's funny why I'm saying this, because when Guruji, as I said to you earlier, okay, I basically went a little bit too far. So a year later, when Guruji came back again, I recognized him as my guru, basically. In the meantime, this 1 year between 2005 2006, I was holding little picture of Yogananda in one hand and little picture of Guruji that was given to me by Guruji through somebody else on the other hand. So I was kind of, it was like a scale somehow. Um, of course, it was very difficult because my mind was confused. Desire was pulling me in one direction, but mind was pulling me in another direction. And when after the second darshan, after the first darshan, I asked Guruji if he would visit our center, Yogananda Center. And he said yes. So I waited for him the day after, and I expected him to be like a guru, like properly dressed and everything. So I had in my mind fantasy I would walk with him hand in hand. I don't know why. I felt so much connected already with him, even though I didn't think of him as my guru, but I felt like he's like a brother disciple or something like that. I mean, this is ridiculous, but that's how my mind was thinking. So basically we were walking from the place where he was sleeping to the table, which is like maybe 10 minutes walking. But he was wearing jeans, he was wearing t-shirt. I was like a bit shocked. I was disappointed. And we were just talking randomly, and I remember exactly the place when I asked him, when I was thinking whether I should share this with him or not. But at some point I got the courage. I said, I didn't say Guruji, I said, I don't know what I said, Swamiji, or I said, I'm waiting for my religious visa to go to America to enter the monastic order of Yogananda. And he said, you can find God anywhere. That was his comment. And for me, it was like something I didn't want to hear, because for me, there's only one place for me where I can find God, not anywhere, not even in India. And it took me a long time to kind of swallow these words. But it was a prophetical voice, because he knew where my destiny lies. And okay, anyway, so a year later, I joined his mission. I will cut the story short. Joined the ashram, and again, I will skip all these years. I became a Swami of Bhakti Marga 2015 for Navaratri. And then Guruji, just shortly before, he told me, like 2 months before, he called me to come to join him in Croatia. And there, actually, when he told me that he would initiate me as a Swami, and he said he would send me back. And this I didn't want to hear. This I kind of pretending I didn't hear. So being a Swami was okay, but anyway, I knew that my Dharma lies in a direction, so it was not actually a surprise to me. But to send me back was a big no-no. And okay, finally he initiated me, and it was clear basically that I would go back. And that was actually not something I wanted, that I anticipated, that I desired, and but I accepted outwardly, but inwardly, of course, I was resisting, and I tried to show my that I actually accepted fully, but I didn't, of course. Uh, because to live in the world back after 10 years being in the ashram, and try to cope with day-to-day life, paying the bills, and you know all these little things that people in the ashram, that they are kind of safe from, was too much for me. Just to be in the world, to be in the world environment, uh, and my personality is more like introvert. I'm not like a missionary kind of type, but Guruji expects from us, not only swamis, but also from brahmacharis and devotees, to be the missionaries, to spread
Mhm.
his message everywhere. And this is how, uh, why I understand clearly that I cannot follow the Cartesian way of life. No way. Even within Bhakti Marga, it's Guruji would not tolerate this. And and I was thinking, this is wonderful way of life, but what they are focused on, they're focused on themselves, how to reach self-realization, and perhaps have certain communion with God. Because the way how our conversation went with the prior of the monastery, and basically he said in different terms, but it was actually self-realization, God realization. They are working towards self-realization, and also slowly toward God realization. But they don't have this concept of God because they're more free to watch. There is no specific philosophy and an idea of God that we have now through Bhakti Marg Academy, through this Vaishnava and or Hari Bhakta Sampradaya, however you want to call it, idea. And we understand why philosophy is important, why this theology that we have is important, to understand our spiritual path, to understand the methodology, and why it is important for us to do specific rituals, and where's the direction, and where's the goal, and how this God that we're approaching is, and what he likes, what he desires from us, and how to connect with him. Because like very similar in Christianity, they have the God who is conscious God. We have God who is also person God, God the person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities, but they don't have the clear, let's say, idea, clear guidance as we have right now within Bhakti Marga. So they're more free to slowly connect themselves with themselves by being completely cut off from the world without any distractions. They are allowed to meet the family members only once a year, two days, or one day every 6 months. So basically, they don't follow news, they don't meet anyone. Nobody is allowed to come in. So they're basically only with themselves, and once weekly they are with their brother disciples to exchange and socialize a little bit. And so basically they're completely focused on transcending their mind, getting to know who they are, and getting connected with God, with Divine Mother, with Mother Mary, with Christ, and and hoping in that way they will be guided towards God realization, whatever they understand by God realization. And this is basically the same process. We have a easier way because we have Sadguru who understands us fully, who understands. He's not just a saint like Saint Bruno who made the order, or Saint whoever. They are God realized to what extent I don't know, but to certain level they are realized, maybe not fully. They create the order, and they guide the people, the devotees, to certain level. But we have great fortune and grace to have a God incarnate who knows us as inside out, who can guide us exactly what we need to transcend these limitations.
Well, and also what Guruji does too, by putting us with people, it pulls out our samskaras, right? What I've noticed is the ones who are sequestered in such an intense way, they can't deal with people. Like if you put them out in the world, it's very easy to disrupt their peace of mind because they haven't dealt with those issues in themselves. Whereas Guruji puts us all together as a Sangha and lets us bash heads, right? And it brings up those things. And I read a biography of Sri Aurobindo, and he went into isolation for a while, and he said it was disastrous. And he realized his progress was faster surrounded by people, that by bringing the whole group up, you move faster instead of letting the group stay down here and you're trying to fly above them. He said it doesn't work. The whole group has to come up.
That's actually what I was saying to Guruji. He destroyed all these ideas in my mind about how Guru should be, how the ashram should be, because let's say in Steffenshof and also
So were you at Steffenshof?
Yes.
Did
yes.
You? Oh wow.
Yes. And also in Shibita Nilaya, you have monks and nuns working together, and that's something normally in monastery you don't do this. You separate them immediately because it's distractions. It's not only about this celibacy problem. It's about that male and female, they have completely different energies, and to work like this, it's very difficult because woman cannot understand men's mind, men cannot understand woman's mind. It's just not possible. We are completely different creations,
right?
Though physically we may look similar as human beings, but like if animals look at us, we are same in their eyes, but inside we are completely different. And those of you who are married, many people come to me who are married, that they share me their problems. It all comes to the same problem. It's impossible to understand each other, and you just need to accept the differences and try to work it out the best you can. Compromise. And this is how you transcend all your limitations, to see that God is in the other person just as much as he is in you, and all these idiosyncrasies you have to kind of pass by or transcend, and it's not easy. It's a big challenge, and that's in the ashram. You don't have only one partner or wife or husband. You have so many,
right?
And Guruji is creating circumstances that maybe normally would take many lives. He creates in a very short period of time that you face many things parallelly with different people or different situations, and that's what challenge is all about. And that's why it's not easy to be in Guruji's presence, because he's directly challenging you, and also in the ashram because he's challenging you through certain experiences and through interactions with some people, because there's some very difficult characters in the ashram, in all the Bhakti Magga ashrams, like in any ashrams in general. And that's normal, because the more people are advanced spiritually, the more certain things are very difficult to crack some things.
Yes.
And you usually have to break similar kind of personalities or energetic level personalities to clash, and Guruji does it very
He's the master.
He's the master. And if you understand the process, it's much easier. But in the beginning, back in Steffenshof, and also in the beginning, first years in Sripita Nilaya, we didn't understand the process. We didn't understand the idea. And Guruji, we didn't read the books. Even in the beginning, Guruji didn't encourage us. He actually discouraged us to read the books. And I understand why, because he would get the wrong ideas before he thought is the right time for us to study and fill the mind with the right things. And now, as you see, he's constantly bringing the lives of saints, because now we we develop certain kind of bhakti and relationship with God and relationship with Him, and now what we need to strengthen it with and in being inspired with the lives of other saints, and with Bhagavatam and all these kind of things, with Bhagavad Gita, that we understand the whole process of being on the spiritual path, and transforming the mind, and getting connected to God, and all this, and that we become more grounded. Because you see, like for example, in some other spiritual Vaishnava organization, sometimes that's so people are so ungrounded, because they fantasize how to be with Radha and Krishna and all these leelas. They're so much into this that they forget a person next to them.
Mhm.
They treat people in a very condescending way, and you can see when they approach us Bhakti Marga devotees, how they talk to us, how much they are so much intellectually they try to challenge us, because they are not at peace. They don't have these realizations they want to have by reading these stories. That's why Guruji first gave us this bhakti feeling, awakened this love in our hearts, and now we have to understand what's happening, and
Mhm.
what's the direction, and then it goes hand in hand. They
Right.
don't have what we have direct experience. They had maybe some glimpses here and there by singing kirtans, and being drowned in these stories of Krishna and all this, but they don't have what we have. So this is the unique opportunity, and that's why Guruji wants us to really spread it. And this is the responsibility from our side, whether we are initiated as devotees, even if I just followers, and being whatever initiation we have, doesn't matter. It's our duty to spread it. When you come to Guruji for any event, or a pilgrimage, he's always saying, now whatever you received, share it with others.
Mhm.
And this is what I also wanted to mention. When I was listening to this, I went to Shri Vital Dham for Narada Bhakti Sutras, and I wanted to visit Swami Vijaya, or Pepe as we like to call him, because he was halfway between Shri Vital Dham and Shri Pita Nilaya. So I said, okay, I organized, and I went alone, and it was really nice to connect with him, because I could never really, you see, he was always with Guruji, serving him and traveling with him. So there was not so much opportunity to be with him alone, to speak with him, because it was always just very short, maybe few words exchanged. So we never actually communicated. And so it was really nice to communicate with him. And I asked him, why this happened to you? Like, did Guruji share with you? Did you ask Guruji? I'm sure he asked Guruji. And he said something very interesting to me, and I can say it freely because he also shared it in the public satsang. So it's not I'm not revealing something, a very private message, and he was happy to say this. Um, it happened to him because he was so much focused on himself. In a sense, all these teachings he was practicing to better himself, not to pass it on to help others. And this is actually what makes difference between Bhakti Marga path in general, but also specifically our Bhakti Marga, our Vaishnava path, Hari Bhakta Sampradaya, uh, as opposed to Jnanic or yogic path. There's so much focus on themselves to spiritually grow, to reach levels of samadhi or level of consciousness, etc., etc., etc. They're not so much focused on God per se, because they view God more not like as a person, but as a cosmic consciousness, as a truth or whatever, bliss. But in Bhakti Marga, Bhakti path, we view God as a person. We view God as somebody with whom we can establish personal relationship, which is personal, which is individual, which is not the same as anybody else's. So it's our unique relationship that our soul has always had and will always have. And this is something which was new to me coming to Guruji. And all this, all this rhetoric that Guruji is always say, relationship with God in person, all these kind of things was really, really alien to me. And it took me, not only me, all of us in the beginning, a long time to kind of understand what Guruji actually means when he says these kind of things. And it took a long time for the puzzle to come on the right place, all these little puzzles. And now I understand that why Guruji wants us to be missionaries, why he thinks it's the better path rather than be by ourselves, because we cannot progress on the spiritual path when we are alone. When we meditate alone, when we do our sadhana alone, it becomes dry, it becomes empty, uh, void somehow. But when we put others first, the needs of others, and when we put God first, but you see, with God, you don't know Him. We know each other, we know Guruji, but we don't know God. Getting to know God is first serving the needs of others. We cannot serve Guruji directly, but if Guruji says, serve the needs of others, spread my message, this is as if you are serving Guruji directly. You think, many people think by serving Guruji directly, like preparing tea for him, pressing his feet or whatever. It's I've seen in the last few years that Guruji is most happy with. Sometimes he gives more attention to some couples, for example, with Sati and her husband, and with people like that who are householders, who are married, more than those who are, let's say, brahmacharis, who are renunciates, because they're focused on him and serving other devotees, bringing people to him. And also like Prithu, why he's always bringing Prithu up, because he has a lot of contacts on his Facebook, on his other social media. He's speaking with these people, he's bringing Guruji to them, sharing Guruji, and this is what Guruji wants. It's not about because he is very knowledgeable, so Guruji, yes, he's using him to make us understand. We have to know our path. We have to explain to people. We have to first understand for ourselves, but we have to be able to explain to people at the level they're at um, what we are all about. Just yesterday, I received very nice testimony from Pratima, her grandson. He comes to our temple, and I gave him little mala, this 27 bead mantra, this wrist mala, and I told him, this you can use and repeat Om Namo Narayana every night. Before you go to sleep, you go once and then repeat the mantra. And I thought he would not do it. You know how sometimes children are. But the mother called me and she said, yes, he's repeating every day. And he asking me the meaning of mantra, and I don't know what to say, how to explain in the way he will understand. And I said, tell him that when you repeat this mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, it's a protection for your mother, for your father, and also for you to get healthy. If you have any problems, just repeat the mantra and you will be okay. And then she was surprised that he would continue repeating this mantra. I think more than one, I think 4 or 5 rounds. If Pratima is here online, maybe she can tell the whole story. And it's what was also interesting. Guruji came into his dreams. Was it the day before, yesterday? I don't know. And he said, I don't remember what he said, but it was encouragement that he was doing a good thing. Pratima is on live, so Pratima, maybe you can correct me.
Yes, Jai Gurudev. Yes, you said everything, except he was continuing to do 5 malas every day, I mean, before sleeping. So this child of 5 years old, the last thing that he was doing was 5 malas before going to sleep. And I was checking because I would close the door. So the lights were off, I would close the door and I heard him saying, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. So every day, every night, 5 rounds. And yes, he was dreaming about Guruji, and it's like a must to do. It's something must to do, because Swami told it's very important, it's very good. So he said, yes, okay, I will do this. And that's perfect. Swami, thank you, Jai Gurudev.
What did Guruji say to
It
him in
was
the dream?
that he will protect him.
Okay. Right. So you see, it's
Yes.
a very beautiful story that you see how you have to know and be strong in your faith. And when you are strong, when you understand your teaching, you can translate it in whatever language is necessary, whatever level people are at. And so, because these teachings are very practical, what Guruji is giving us, it's applicable to everyone, whether people are spiritual or not. This being relationship with God, because we cannot function as human beings without relationships. Imagine you go to a city or place where you don't know anybody. You'll be very unhappy because you don't know anybody. But for example, if you're in your own city, you know the bakery, you stop and you chat and exchange some words every day, and you find some old granny, you speak with her. Like this small interchange, this is what makes us human beings. Which how when we create this, when we are listening to the needs of others, we allow this love to flow through us. So we connect to this Paramatma, which permeates everyone. But when we are alone, it's not possible to grow spiritually. So that's why we are not meant to, and because we also knowing in the Bhagavad Gita, we are also so interconnected, like pearls on the string, and the string is him, is this divine love. And so that's it's so logical. Our path is so logical and so natural that sometimes I wonder how people don't get it. That you cannot. It's very difficult to reach God in any other way. It's not possible, because when you really properly study Bhagavad Gita, and that's what Guruji is somehow forcing us, because this is for our benefit. And so this is very very interesting what Swami Vijaya said, because many of us are so much focused that we spiritually advance, that we become better, that we use the teachings for our own benefit, that we can transcend our mind and knowledge. But the best way to transcend the mind, to not to focus on it, not to focus on ourselves, but to help others. That's why Guruji is always pushing all of us to serve others, to spread the message, because this is the way how you forget yourself. And the moment you forget yourself, this is where the magic comes. This is where God comes in. This is where all the spiritual beauty comes. But when you work on yourself, when you focus on yourself, when you try to your best to control your mind, to rise spirituality, it's not possible, because you're using your own effort, your own will, but you have no will on your own. And this is how I kind of resolved this problem when he sent me back. As I said, I didn't want to go back. I didn't desire to go back. But then I remembered the moment I wanted to become a monk meant for me renouncing my own will, renouncing my own ways, my own desire. I don't think anymore. I have no will of my own, no mind of my own. This is the idea of being a monk.
Mhm.
And everything else is secondary. And of course,
So I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question for you. So in that gap between meeting Guruji and then, seeing him again,
Yeah.
did your visa ever get approved for America, or did Guruji completely stopped it?
Yes. Just I think it was a couple of weeks after Guruji left. So I was already waiting for 2 months. I think a couple of weeks he left 2005. I got a phone call or message from I got I think message from the embassy to go to the embassy, and I thought maybe I got a visa.
Right.
I went to the embassy. It's not in my hometown, so I had to drive by bus 5 hours and change another bus or whatever. And I expected, okay, my visa will be confirmed, and it was like a cold shower. My visa was denied. And there was no way how you can, because you just get a passport through. You don't
Yeah.
even get to meet these officials. You know, you just like, it was really like, I felt so miserable, so like an old rag basically. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, there was two options that I was contemplating. One is to go to India to try get visa to and join the Yogoda Satsanga, which is like a sister organization,
Right.
and try this. Even though I was not so much attracted to the way how they do it in India, so I really wanted to go to America. But the second option was just to take my harmonium and go sing bhajans in the streets in Europe. It was
Ah,
it was it was way long before I even Guruji sent me to do street kirtan.
yeah.
But that was a funny story. I said it in the book. This is, as I said, I'm really like a secluded like monk. I'm not. I have no desire to be outside. And when Guruji gave me this duty to go outside, I know many residents, they like to go outside for tea, for whatever, for to buy something. I never wanted to go out. There was nothing was attractive to me, even the nature, nothing. Um, it was years I was living in Shipita Nilaya. I didn't go for a walk. After many years, I one day I said, okay, I'm here for years. I just have to go for a little walk. So that's how much I was like a hermit. And then when he gave me this duty, so I had to go weekly outside, expose myself. In At the time I was still white brahmachari, so with tilak, with singing, and I was not in the phase to sing. I was even not. I was in the phase that I disliked even singing bhajans, which is like after so many years, it was a really interesting and strange phase in my life. So Guruji is the master of messing up with your mind and helping you in completely different way than you expect. And of course, it took me a long time to accept it, to enjoy it, and to uh, uh, get all the pieces together, and be at peace with myself, and make,
Well,
so
that's when you realize he's been with us for lifetimes, right? Because he knows the hurdles that you've had from
like
the past, even.
you get to know it from the beginning. Like, for example, when I met him for the second time, and he came to Croatia second time, and I came to meet him at the airport, this is the moment when I can felt even deeper connection. I felt I'm known him. We've been together for life after life. And this is actually when I asked him to join. I think even he asked me first. I don't know who asked who first, but it was about the same moment, I think. And Guruji, of course, said yes, because that's what was meant to be. And I was super in bliss. I was so much in bliss that I couldn't eat. I remember him trying to feed me, and I remember the first lunch. He there's one thing I don't eat. I don't like. It's red peppers in general,
Oh, he loves peppers.
because it's very heavy for my digestion. So I just cannot digest it. It stays long time in my digestive system, and this is something I never actually ate. So there was a lunch, and there was this on the table, and Guruji, knowing this, he was feeding me with it, so it was so funny. And he said, "Oh, you don't like it, do you?" And I said, "I don't." But still, he wanted me to eat this piece. It was prasad. I didn't know what was prasad at the time, but and I couldn't eat the whole trip. So we went from Zagreb to Split, and from Split down to Dubrovnik, to Montenegro, through Kosovo, and to Belgrade, and then Hungary and Austria, and then back to Split. So he arranged everything. It was a very, very wonderful trip. I was so much blissed out. I was but there was still some, let's say, distance. Everybody was bowing down to Guruji. I didn't feel comfortable bowing down to him because there was still not this complete like surrender. So I remember once I said to myself, I had to bow down. Everybody's every day, every morning, they're bowing down to him. So I had to do it once. I did it, but I felt so unnatural, so strange. And I couldn't eat the whole trip. I was so, when you're so much blissed out, as you don't need to eat. This
Yeah.
I was vomit. I didn't vomit, but I had this feeling of vomiting if I would even smell food. But he forced me to it. Everybody was buying me ice. They liked me in the beginning. Like, when you're around Guruji, you love everybody. So people like me. That they treat me with ice cream and this and that. I just couldn't take anything. I was, you know, I didn't need food. He was my food. I felt love with everybody else. I felt like finally I came home. All these people are my true spiritual brothers. I didn't desire anything else. So there was this honeymoon period, but this honeymoon period actually lasted very short, because when I moved in, first I was I worked in the construction. There was one resident who always took me. He was renovating houses, and we didn't have so much work in the ashram at the time, so he took me to this house, which is 1 hour drive, so we would renovate. And I remember Pankaj and Keshava came also there sometimes. They were spending their summer holidays. They were 13 years old at the time. They just received their brahmachari initiation, so we were working there. It was very strange to this group of people. This guy was married, but living like brahmachari, and Swami Keshava and Pankaj and myself renovated these old houses. And I didn't feel like, I was thinking, what I was supposed to be in the ashram, not like working for somebody else. Like I was not really happy with it. And then 3 weeks later, Guruji initiated me as a brahmachari, and then around that time, was it before initiation, after initiation, I don't remember. There was a meeting, resident meeting. There was only 10 residents at the time, official residents. It was a very small community. Like, even, for example, Swami Vijaya, he was official resident, but he was almost never there. Either he was with Guruji, or he was in Switzerland because he still has a company. He still, he had to take care of his sons. He has 2 sons. And for example, Swami Madhava, he had a room there, but he would come only when Guruji was there. He was kind of official resident, but not resident. So there was only few people, like Dakshini was there. Triyamakeshwari moved maybe 2 months after I moved there. So Drishti was there, and few other people. Most of them, they're not resident, they're not with Guruji anymore. So there was just 10 people. Then was Partha was there. Partha was the main person. He held everything in his hands. It was amazing, his energy, how he handled everything, paying bills and booking Guruji's flights, organizing his, there's nobody else in Bhakti Marga. Now you have Yamunashi, who is doing this for Guruji. You have different people organizing different stuff, but at that time it was nobody. It was just Partha doing everything for Guruji, and few of us who were there in the ashram. And when I came, actually it was the separation of men and women. Brahmachari, the first brahmachari initiation was maybe 3 months after I met Guruji in November 2005. And I joined July. I came to the ashram 1st of August, but in July I was on the tour with Guruji, so so I was already there. So this is the moment when Guruji basically separated Prabhus and Matajis, and until then they were together. It was actually the best time for them, because they were always with Guruji in the same house. But from that moment on, Guruji was becoming actually more strict, and men couldn't go into women's quarters. Women couldn't go into men's. It was very difficult for them, because most of them they were like normal people. Many of them, they
Right.
were married and they didn't understand anything about brahmacharya. I was the only one who came with this idea, and I was really frustrated because I already lived like this, that I have one day free for myself. Anyway, we had one day off. So that was Monday. So I was meditating the whole day. That was my habit, doing my spiritual practice. And because people didn't understand what meditation, even meditation is all about, they would just talk aloud. They were just tapping my shoulders. They tried to engage me in conversation. Then they're so emotionless sitting in front of my altar. Imagine this kind of ignorance. And I tried to maintain my let's say monastic routine, but it was very very difficult because it was more like a hippie living together with this bunch of guys, and being allowed preparing late pizzas and sandwiches. For me it was like completely tamasic
Right.
lifestyle. And that was I had many challenges with this, but it took me years to understand why Guruji is doing this. First he had to bring people together through his magnetism, through his love, and then slowly molding them in the way he wanted it.
Mhm.
Finally coming to this Hari Bhakta Sampradaya, which is like very orthodox, let's say,
Mhm.
religious form of
Right.
living and worship. And if he started with this in the very beginning, nobody would follow him. Absolutely nobody.
Well, and
So,
even Sri Yukteswar had told Yogananda, you can't be as strict as I've been with you. When you go to the West, they won't accept it.
yes, yeah. So Guruji was very, very careful with uh, how he was pushing in his direction, and joining these little pieces, even like with bhajans, the style of bhajans he sang in the beginning, drawing from different traditions, allowing even to sing different gurus' names and all this, just to make people at ease with him, and
Right.
accepting Hinduism and all these strange prayers, and molding our minds slowly into this hardcore, I would say, Hindu spirituality.
Yes.
So it was not easy. I've been there like since almost beginning, and I could see what Guruji was doing to build a community, to first to build people as devotees, to build community, to manage through all these different characters and all these problems that normally people face when they are either in marriage or in any relationship, and to have group of first 10 people, and we were like 23 residents, I remember I counted, just before we moved to Shri
Oh,
Nilaya. But this 23 came like 7 8 came the last 3 4 months. So for a long time we were like maybe between 15 and 18, something like this. uh, and then we came to this new ashram, so it was much more work, so it was a lot of challenges. I can start talking for hours, I will not end. Very very difficult. Now it's much
well,
easier
there
because
were so few of you for such a huge place.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Just a few of us for such a huge place, because nothing was working, electricity, heating. But you see,
Oh,
we saw that this divinity of Guruji, when he said to Sabarish that we have heating by the end of September 2008, because we officially moved after Guruji's birthday. Guruji's birthday was the last 30th birthday, the last event we held in Stefansov. It was a huge event, and uh, and after this, I remember some of the devotees speaking so highly of Guruji, very staunch devotee, very dedicated, and many of them left just a couple of months after.
oh,
It was June 30th, and by September 1st, a number of them left. It was so interesting how they praise Guruji, what they say. Oh, Guruji, I remember one, her son was in the ashram. Oh, Guruji, you are my everything. You are my God. You are my this. You are my that. And then she was one of the first to leave in such a negative way. Um, and so it was also challenging with this being the new building. Many people going against Guruji, many of them came back at a certain point when they realized their mistake. And this is the prophecy of Guruji. He said, by the end of September there will be heating. And Sabarish, who was facing with reality of this building, he said there's no possibility, like everything was destroyed, there's no way. But just, I think 10 days before the end of September, there was heating working, even electricity in some parts of the building. So he really, I mean, all of us, it was like we worked for 3 people. Like when I see now devotees, residents complaining so much work, we were working for 3 people, each one of us. So there was no break. There was like we were working in dust, in like everything was. We didn't have money, and it was a challenge day by day.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have like senior disciples who could really explain us what we are going through inwardly and outwardly.
Right.
Now it's easier, some of us long time devotees who were from the beginning, and we have now academy, we have now the teachings, we understand the theology of Guruji and philosophy, and we understand what he's doing, we understand him more, how he's teaching comparing to, for example, other gurus. This is what he broke my fixation of how Guru should be, and all of us, we had certain ideas. So, but it takes certain time. It's not something you can get it immediately. But now people can get it more quicker because they have few people who can explain them in different ways the whole thing. So when they have doubts, there was nobody who could, even we couldn't come to Guruji because we didn't know even what to ask, because you're confused, you don't know what's happening. But also Guruji was also different at the time. He was more like a friend, more like even though he was like a guru, but still there was a more time of being at ease with him. And you could really approach him more easily. He could explain more, even though he didn't really explain much things. The way how he's teaching is really he giving us experience.